Hi, everyone. I'm Tara Lon. Welcome to Time Out with Tinseltown Mom. Today, I'm going to be speaking with someone who's been on before, Dr. Denise Hunter, also known as Dr. D. Nice. Dr. D. Nice has been a medical doctor for over 20 years and is also an Adolescent Wellness Specialist. Today, Dr. D. Nice is going to talk about how to keep ADHD kids organized in middle and high school. Hi, Dr. D. Nice. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for reaching back out. I enjoyed the last time and I'm really excited about the next time.
Yes, me too. Me too. So for those who have not heard you before or didn't listen to our last episode where we talked about obesity in adolescents, why don't you just give us a little insight into who you are?
Yes, I am a board-certified internal medicine physician, and you may be like, well, that's adults. Yes. And I have an extreme interest in wellness in teens because I've been a youth leader for many years. And so I've used some of the information that I've gained, knowledge that I've gained over the years as seeing adults, how they have, how some of the habits they developed over the years has affected them, and extrapolated it, I should use a smaller term, but took it back a few steps to where we really can make some real lasting change into youth. So I really am focused on my wellness company, which is called Wisdom Teethinger, is really focused on teen and middle school, high school, college wellness.
Okay, excellent. So today we're talking about ADHD and organization. So just to start, for those who are not familiar with ADHD and just the struggle of ADHD, can you just explain to us what it is, like what that looks like so people are clear?
Yeah, for sure. So ADHD really is, in the name, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. So if you break each of those words down into exactly what they said, attention deficit, you are not able to really focus. Hyperactive, just energy that is not really focused in a specific direction. It's almost nervous energy. And that's basically what's going on. It's just a difficulty, a developmental issue that's happening in the brain that really makes it hard, difficult for the person to really sit still, to manage, to have self-control. It's almost like a lack of control and the ability to really focus and so much of life really requires you to zoom in and focus on get things done.
Right. So are there different levels of ADHD? And also, do we still say ADD? Because I just hear people mainly saying ADHD.
ADHD is mostly, but ADD, people still use that term.
Okay,
but there definitely are different levels. Just like anything, there's a spectrum. We're all different human beings, and things may show up differently. So, for example, there are 3 characteristics that you'll usually see in ADHD. There's that inattentiveness, that's just a lack of ability to zoom in and focus on something specifically. There's that impulsive response where that you did not think about that before you did it. It's just a very reactive way, reactive to life. And hyperactive, just that excessive bouncing off the wall energy. So those 3 parts are typically present in most people with ADHD. However, you can have some that just have 2 of those, like the impulsivity and the hyperactivity tends to be go together and more common in boys. And the inattentiveness seems to be more common in girls. And and it's more like a daydreamy. And when I say these things, you're like, well, aren't some of those normal? But it's not normal in that it really is disruptive to how they perform, how they are in school, how they are at home, how they are at church, places where you can have high energy and run around and jump around and do all, but there comes a time where you do need to sit down and focus. And so in the ADHD person, they just have that difficulty like reining it in.
Right.
Yeah,
And
so
I heard
there's a spectrum to it.
Right. That makes sense. I heard with ADD, because there's the hyperactivity part is missing. And I guess mainly in girls, they're more diagnosed with the ADD. So I hear that, sometimes they are misdiagnosed or it's missed because they're in class, but they're sitting still as if they're listening, but really their mind's like not focused. It's just like you said, that they're dreaming about other things.
Yeah.
So I guess for the purposes of today's conversation, I guess we should talk about both of those, right? ADD and ADHD as far as organization, or is it different? Like, is it different organizational skills?
I mean, ADHD tends to be more all-encompassing. So that tends to be the thing that most people talk about. So let's just really focus in on that one, I think.
Oh, which one? I missed what you said.
ADHD. I'm sorry.
Oh, the ADHD. Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. All right. So let's get started with our conversation. So ADHD, what is going on in that kid's mind to keep them off track and disorganized? Like, what's going on in their brain, are they scattered in their brain and they can't keep organized? Like, just help us as adults just understand what's happening to keep them so disorganized.
There is actual structural change. This is not something that is made up in your head that this child is just really trying to drive you crazy. No, there is actually some anatomical issues. For example, most of it is concentrated in the frontal lobe, the front part of the brain. And that's the part of the brain that's responsible for executive function. And when I say executive function, like consciously thinking about things, like your memory, your language, planning, problem solving, decision making. That's the part of the brain that measures risk versus benefit. For example, and honestly, the frontal lobe in most of us, people without ADHD, it really doesn't fully develop till you're age 25. And so before that, the action and the consequences don't really match up in your brain. Sometimes, that's why young people are fearless. They just do stuff. They don't think about it. And so with ADHD, this frontal lobe is even more delayed. So there's that. And then there's also the pathways that go through your brain. There's some things that show that there's some things going on with the different pathways that send signal from one place to the other, that some of those pathways are not functioning the way they should. And then some of the actual things that give signals, the neurotransmitters like norepinephrine and dopamine, they are not working as well. So these are really real changes, physical changes. This child is not purposely trying to drive you crazy. Their brain is just developing at a slower pace, or slightly broken, but not irreparable.
Yeah. So as they get older, does their brain start working better, or they just adjust to their circumstances?
A combination of both. Some people tend to grow out of the ADHD. Some people do tend to grow out of it. So that definitely is a possibility. And then there are others that really, through time and attention in the younger years, they learn to adapt to ADHD.
Okay. So let's talk about some practical ways to help parents. Yeah. So let's start with morning routine. Like how would you give a parent advice on just the morning routine? Let's say it's getting ready for school and trying to get them out of the house. Like, what are some practical ways to keep that kid organized before school in the morning?
The biggest principle I'm going to start with before I get into that is having ADHD is not a get out of jail free card. Don't lower your standards. Don't accept unacceptable behavior. There still needs to be real consequences, because part of this is really you help them train their brain. And you can't just give them a free pass, or else, unfortunately, you end up with older adults that have never mastered the art of managing themselves. So you don't want that. So we're getting the child out of school, off to school. The first thing, one command at a time. Don't say, come eat your breakfast, then go brush your teeth, then grab your backpack, then pack your lunch, away, and then make sure feed the dog one command at a time.
But what if you're rushing in the morning and you need to give them 3 commands?
Well, that's not, then you're gonna run into a problem because that's not how their brain works. So you, as a parent, are gonna have to do some things on your side too to make sure this your child. I don't want to say it's like a disability. It really isn't. You want to, your child. You don't want to make things hard for them in this way because now I'm telling you and explaining to you that the executive functioning part of the brain is not working up to par to a regular 12-year-old, regular 13-year-old. You're going to have to back up and make a few accommodations to really help them be successful. And you don't want to say we're rushing and give them 500 commands and get mad when they did half a command and just got so flustered and frustrated that they just gave up and start acting up. That's going to defeat the purpose. One command at a time.
Okay. So what's a typical morning? What should that look like organizational wise? Like, should there be like a planner in place or charts? Like, do you have any like tips to help parents as far as, keeping them on track and on schedule?
For sure. Have a planner in place, and with ADHD kids, it's going to be important. ADHD kids, important that you have some sort of routine and structure around it. So don't wait till the morning of to come up with a plan. Start working on it together as a family. That these are the things that needs to occur every morning. And you could even have a checklist that sits at a specific place in the house, and your child knows that, okay, this is the first thing I do, and they can physically even check it off. And then they go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And you don't necessarily have to play a full role in giving them the instructions. This could be something that you all have pre-planned, put together, family plan, a chart that sticks right there on the wall that you all work through together.
Right. Well, that's a good idea, just having it visually in front of them so they can just check it off as they go. So I'm assuming they probably need enough time in the morning to be able to get through the task. So maybe waking them up earlier so they can be able to get out on time. I'm assuming that'd be part of it.
Exactly. Because you don't want to set them up to fail and get frustrated and even feeling worse than they do that they are other. Let's be honest, with ADHD kids, they know that things are a little different from them. They're in school, they're the one that oftentimes the teacher is calling out the most. They're the ones that's getting sent to the office the most. Sometimes in certain situations, you don't want to feel the same way when you come home.
Right.
Don't set them up to fail. And I know forgive me, teachers. I know there are teachers that are well aware of ADHD and have accommodated ADHD kids and accommodate them in the class. But even among their peers, some of them really get ostracized. So you don't want that to be at home.
Right.
Set them up to win.
Yes. Do you think an actual planner would help them?
Of course.
But do you think that's something that like a middle schooler or a high schooler would use? Like an ADHD kid, like you say, okay, here's your weekly, daily planner. Like you have to fill in the days, the weeks, etc. Like, is that something that you think would be useful just in general for ADHD kids?
I would say, organization is important. Okay. And if you're not able to organize yourself, just mentally picture it and organize yourself, then writing it down and seeing it will always be beneficial. Try it as a tool for your child if a planner works for them, a physical planner or a planner on the computer, and see how that works for them. To help train them how to use it. And if it's successful, then great. If not, you can move on to other techniques where just daily lists. We make a list the night before. Maybe we don't plan out everything ahead of time, but really, there's no harm in trying different techniques and seeing which one really works for your child.
Okay. Now, what about when they get to school? I'm assuming someone who has ADHD, the teacher knows about it. So hopefully they'll accommodate the child accordingly. But what are some ways, just as parents, they can encourage their kid while they're at school to stay organized so they're not zoning out, missing important information, not writing down assignments, things like that? Do you have any ideas there?
So teachers, of course, you're correct. Most teachers are well aware of kids that have the diagnosis of ADHD, and teachers themselves are sometimes on high alert for kids that potentially have that diagnosis. If they see a child maybe not finishing a test quickly enough, or when you know that at that age, they're supposed to be able to hit that mark. If you see kids that just off in their own world, or just behavioral issues, they're kind of tuned into that to be able to understand, you know what, maybe this child is struggling with ADHD. They need to bring it up to the parent to say, I would consider getting them tested for that. But so teachers in general, this is part of their training to be able to accommodate kids with different behavioral issues as well as educational levels. So yes, the teachers themselves will already have plans in place for the kids on what they need to do. There is one tip though that I really find that is super important, and I have a friend that's an adult that has ADHD that she uses, and is a timer. A timer. And this is it's training that attention muscle. So for example, if you have a task to do, perhaps you can sit down and say, set a timer for 2 minutes. And I'm going to focus and work on it for 2 minutes. And when I can get to 2 minutes, then I add another minute, 3. Overall, I'd say the highest you could probably go to and expect for a child with ADHD, or even a person with ADHD, to get to is about 30 minutes of persistent, focused time. So if you slowly build that muscle over months, over weeks, over months, over years, once you get to 30, I think you're doing well. So at 30 minutes, you take a break and then you come back. So that's the one tip I would say: start really training your attention, just like you'll train a muscle, train in the gym, to build up that attention muscle.
Oh, I like that. So can you give an example of what that might look like, as far as are you saying, like, for example, if they want to read a book, start with 5 minutes, or can you give an example specifically?
Exactly. If you need to write a research paper in high school, let's say the first step, you can even take the time to breaking tasks down into specific steps. That's something I should throw into that help them break a complicated task down into specific steps. And so we're doing a research paper. Maybe that all you can do is 2 minutes on the computer Googling your subject. Take a break, go outside and run, something like whatever it is that you want to do. Call a friend, then you get back in it another 2 minutes. But really working on extended the amount of time that you can sit and attend to something.
Now, what if they want to sit and they'll attend to something? Let's say it's Googling something on a research paper, but they want to also listen to soft music in the background. Like, would you advise against that?
I mean, there's certain soft music that is calming and relaxing to the brain. Overall, I would just decrease as much stimulation as possible. So because you're in training.
Yeah.
This is not, it's not just a flippant activity, not so important. You're basically training. So it's like an athlete that's training their body to perform. You're training your brain to perform. And it requires focus, and the least amount of distraction, the better.
I like that. So you're saying start with a timer and just build up to that 30 minutes.
Yeah, and this is something that you can start with young children. And if by the time they leave your house and head off to college, they should have that 30 minutes down.
That's excellent. So that's what I was going to ask. So if you do train them on the timer with this, like you're training their brain to focus, you're saying that they'll retain that knowledge in their brain. It's not something they have to kind of like restart all over again.
No. You won't have to restart that again at all.
Okay. Now, just going back to school, do you have any other suggestions or tips? Let's say with the child in school, maybe they're missing assignments, coming home. Oh, I didn't listen to the math lesson. I don't know what's going on, things like that. Like, do you have any other tips maybe that could be helpful for them just in the classroom setting? Because parents aren't there to monitor it. So it's really hard to, keep them on task when they're away from the parents.
Yeah, and that's really where communication with the teacher comes in, really letting the teacher know what you've observed in your child at home, what sort of attention issues you observed, and the teacher explaining to you the things that she's noticed, the areas that your child is flourishing in. So it's having a great communication with the teacher and letting them know that, okay, I've noticed that this really works well when I'm at home with them. Can we try, do you mind trying this when you're at school? And just having just a good two-way communication between the teacher and the parent, and even the child too, as they get to a certain age.
Okay. All right, great. So what about when the child gets home? Is there anything different that a parent should do when they get home as far as keeping them on task for their homework, and maybe there's chores or just anything else that they might have to do when they get home?
Yes, and I'm going to reiterate again, breaking large task into smaller bite-sized pieces, step-by-step things, and giving one command at a time. And I can't be a wellness physician without throwing out nutrition.
No, that's good.
Yeah, I'm going to make a blanket statement here to you and your viewer and your listeners. Every single mental health issue, anyone that has any mental health issue must pay attention to nutrition. Must. If you really want to solve or feel better or work better or have a mental health issue truly be managed and controlled or even cured. Can I say cured? I'll say cured.
Yeah.
You really have to pay attention to nutrition. And especially, and since we're on ADHD, the things that I would really want parents to pay attention to is sugar. The sugar that's in their children's food. That's the processed sugar. I'm not talking orange and apples and those things. That sugar is wrapped in a beautiful fiber package that doesn't really cause any problem. I'm talking the processed sugars that are hidden and sometimes very boldly in most processed foods. Cut those out of your child's life completely. There have been people that have, just by those simple nutritional changes, they have noticed almost eradication of the ADHD in their children.
Wow.
Yeah. So don't be. This is something that is super important. I mean, there's some other things that's happening when you remove the sugar from the diet that really looks at the gut health. There is that gut-brain connection. Your gut is considered the second brain because there's so many nerve connections that happen right there that people don't attempt to think about the gut health affecting the brain health. Mm-hmm. But they are hand in hand, one hand washing the other. And if you want really good control over your mental health, you got to get your gut health under control too. And that's for your kids. Feed them good, nourishing foods, fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes, whole grains. Processed foods, processed sugars should be absolutely removed from your child's diet.
You say completely removed, not like once a week. You're saying completely removed.
I mean, we have to set a standard.
Yeah. No,
my standard is up here, and if you're shooting for it, you may get close to here, but 0 is best.
Yeah. Okay. And now, are there any vitamins or supplements that you think are good for ADHD kids?
I mean, vitamin. I'm going to back up and say, like, if you've done the nutritional changes and then you want to look at vitamins and supplements, that's one thing. But I'm not a big vitamin supplement pusher unless you really made the changes in your nutrition that you need to make, because
Mm-hmm.
it's just another pill. And I honestly am not against medication, because their ADHD definitely responds to medication too, and that's not something I necessarily want to get into. So
Yeah.
don't from nothing I'm saying here is saying that you should never use medication for ADHD kids. Just work with your provider with that. But definitely understand that nutrition can play a very strong healing role in this for your children.
That's so good and important that you mentioned that. Do you know of any programs out there that could help parents with ADHD kids? Like, are there things like that out there? Let's say that, the summer's coming up. Do they have like, I don't know, camps, like
Oh yeah,
organizational camps?
honestly, there's a website that is the first, I mean, it's a collective of everything, all things ADHD. It's CHADD.org.
Okay.
CHADD.org. I mean, I don't think there's anything about ADHD that you'd want to know that website doesn't have. I don't think there's any resource that website doesn't have. It even can connect you with local events, local seminars. If you have a child with ADHD, you need to be on that website, and you can take it from there. But that website is an absolute must in your arsenal of places that you go to.
All right, excellent. I'll definitely put that in the show notes. Well, thank you. This is such great, rich information. Is there anything else that maybe we didn't talk about that you think might be helpful for parents?
Yeah, there is an organizational tool that I personally use that I feel that could really be beneficial for kids, especially in high school and college age, where the responsibilities are just coming left and right. And it's Getting Things Done, David Allen. It's just a way to organize your life and really be task oriented, getting things done. And it's a book. You can get it on, there's an audio book. You can get it just about anywhere. He's been out for many, many, many years, almost decades. And it's a tool that I really use to focus on task and really getting it done. Same kind of thing where I said step by step. And if you even work with your child, if you look into it and it resonates with you, you start working on your child with it from the time that I think about high school age would be an age where they really can grasp the concept of how it works and really get them to start using that method. At least you'll send them out into life with a good, solid, strong, tried and true method to work through different tasks, to be able to get them. I feel like I'm saying getting it done redundantly.
Getting it done. Tagline.
To get things done, but getting things done, I really feel, once again, by David Allen, is a good, solid program in that we all kind of learn how to do that. I think that would be a good thing for them to teach their ADHD children that method.
Okay, awesome. So is this book for parents?
It's for, I use it.
It's for parents to read to help their kids though, and help them.
No. This is an organizational method, an organizational tool. So that's what I'm saying is if you get like a middle schooler or a high schooler, you can get them that book or you can work through it with them, the method. So they learn this method of organizing their lives and getting tasks done.
Oh, okay. So we'll put the website at the end so parents can go to the website and then also get the book as an accompaniment.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, honestly, I've never gone to his website and I have no stock in him, no anything. It's just a method that I use in order to get complicated tasks done and to organize my life. And I found it to be so beneficial. I've told a few of my friends that own small businesses and things, and it's just a really good tool. And
all right, perfect.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Dr. D. Nice, for being here again. I'll definitely have you on again. Now, where can people find you if they want to know more about you and what you do?
Yeah, you can find me, our website. Please sign up for our monthly newsletter. We always send out great information, wisdomteethinger.com, wisdom in your head, teeth in your mouth, inger.com. Same thing for our Instagram page. I have a 15-year-old girl that posts health tips every single day. She is so good at it. You can go to our Instagram. I do have an adult or Wisdom Teethinger Facebook page where we do parenting tips every other Wednesday at 8:00. It's a live that I do with another woman. Her name is Tamara. She's a teen coach. And yeah, I think those are the big places, Instagram and the website and Facebook.
Thanks for listening to Time Out with Tinseltown Mom. If you liked what you heard today, please be so kind and rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, because when you do that, you get this podcast in front of more listeners. And I want to offer more encouragement to a wider audience. So any positive reviews that you can give would be so helpful. Until next time.